All right, Annabelle Creation from director David F. Sandberg. Does the F stand for fuck? What's it stand for? So David F. Sandberg also directed Lights Out, which I reviewed recently. And he directed Shazam, which I also reviewed. But yeah, so Annabelle Creation. This one is a prequel to Annabelle, and this one takes place in 1965, I think, or 56 or 55. I think it's the mid 50s. I can't tell what I wrote down, but whatever. It's a prequel to Annabelle, and this is the origins of Annabelle, and it takes place in this house in the middle of nowhere, really, and it's turning into an orphanage for these Catholic girls, and the evil is unleashed and is attacking them and fucking with them. That's really it. It's just a house of little girls seeing supernatural shit, being scared shitless, and trying to get out of there and survive. That's the story. All right, so what I like about this one is I thought this one had terrific atmosphere. I love the look of this movie. It's an improvement over the first Annabelle, which had more of kind of a plain look, not much atmosphere there. But this one also has a much more thrilling, intense climax. Like the last 20 minutes of this movie is terrific. And it's mostly good scares. There is some jump scares, but not as much as Annabelle Comes Home. And these scares are more creative, and some of them actually got me, and I like how they were done. It was much more better crafted than the third movie. And these are some amazing child actors. They gave some incredible performances, and one of these child actors is in other horror movies like Ouija Origins of Evil, and she went on to do Becky. And so, yeah, they're just incredible. Like the dialogue, like the chemistry between these girls. And I love how this one ties into the first Annabelle and the little twist there at the end about who one of these characters is. And this one makes the most use of Annabelle. Like in the first movie and in the third one, it's like Annabelle's just there, but she's not the one like providing scares. It's just other things happening. But in this one, there's quite a few scenes of Annabelle just being in different positions and her head slowly turning, or like she's in a different position than when we last saw her. She's in the rocking chair like in The Conjuring. Like there's a lot more Annabelle on screen in this movie. I thought the music was pretty good also, once again done by Joseph Bishara, and this one's actually more violent than Annabelle. Things that I didn't like in this movie is I didn't care for the Phantom of the Opera mask that Mrs. Mullins was wearing. I thought that was weird. And there was some CG, like when fingers are being snapped. It looked pretty CG. I wish that could have been practical. And it does seem to recycle some scares from other movies like Wreck and Poltergeist. And my last little complaint here, I don't have a whole lot negative to say about it. I really enjoyed it. I just thought Janice's reactions were unbelievable to me. She seems way too brave. There's a few moments in this movie where these kids just don't seem as scared as they should be, or I just don't buy their reactions, and they're chilling in rooms by themselves late at night with creepy shit happening for far too long without screaming. Like, there's moments where they should be screaming or yelling for help a lot sooner. Like, Janice is in this room where she should not be, and creepy, weird shit is happening, and she is just way more calm than she should be. So that's just the only thing that really just was taking me out of the movie. Like, okay, come on. At what point do you start yelling? So, final thoughts, this is easily the best of the Annabelle trilogy because it's got more going on and it doesn't rely on cheap like jump scare stingers throughout, and it's serious in tone, unlike Annabelle Comes Home. It's dark, spooky, atmospheric, fast paced, and just an entertaining thrill ride. So when it comes to Annabelle Creation, I'm giving it 4 out of 5. Alright, spoilers. So we get to see Annabelle being created in the opening, and I like that they continue with the crayon notes. We get to see the real Annabelle this time as a living person, not some doll. like writing the crayon notes that we see her do in the other movies. And then I like that they actually take time setting up these characters, their relationship, with their daughter, having a good time before she gets hit. Like the movie could have just opened with, her getting hit by the truck or them talk about it or something. Like, no, I love that we actually get to see their bond and really get to kind of know them, and then boom, tragedy hits. Quite literally, like this girl gets hit by a truck on screen, and it looks pretty brutal. And then they flash forward 12 years later, and we meet our characters, and they're doing like that, like fortune telling thing, the paper thing. What do you call it? Like you create yourself. You fold the paper, you write like custom things inside. Like you can make it whatever you want, and you like pick a number, pick a color. Like I used to do that shit all the time growing up because I had 3 sisters, and they would make those things, and we would play around with that. And one thing I've noticed in all these like Conjuring universe films is that they all have like this long tracking shot to like establish the location and all the characters, where the camera will go in the house and go around and show all the characters. Like they do it in The Conjuring and Conjuring 2, and they do it kind of in Annabelle. But it starts like inside, goes out, goes back inside. Like there's always long tracking shots. And this one is another one that has it. And so, yeah, Janice doesn't wonder who was in Annabelle's room when she gets in there. She hears someone in there. The note gets slid underneath the door. She gets in there, and there's no one in there. And she never once is like, well, who the fuck was talking in here? And who wrote that note? Like, it never crosses her mind. And she never questions it. It's like, really? Come on. And then she finds the secret room, and we get like a poltergeist moment where she sees the creepy Annabelle doll on the chair, and she grabs like a blanket and throws it over the doll like the clown in Poltergeist. And so then they have like this back to back confession thing, and I thought it was kind of mean but also funny that she makes the cripple unpack all the boxes. She's got like polio, she's crippled, and she's like, oh, because you went into Annabelle's room, you have to unpack all the boxes by yourself. These 2 teenagers of the group of kids, the older ones, they are like talking shit, making up stories about Mrs. Mullins. It's like, be grateful that they're letting you live here. Like it's like, oh yeah, thanks for inviting us to live with you. We're gonna start talking shit about you when you're not around and make up stories about you and act like you're a fucking hideous monster that roams the fields at night, and like they're like making up all these weird stories about Mrs. Mullins. I'm like, you guys are bitches. No one's gonna adopt you. And so Janice sees like this puppet show going on. Again, she like never screams, and then I would be like shitting my pants, but she seems way more calm than I would be. And then we get like this another poltergeist moment where the hallway starts to stretch longer and longer. And then this is when Janice gets marked, and she has this brutal fall on the ground, and you would think that would kill her, but I guess since she's kind of like possessed at this point, she can survive anything. And again, like no one hears her scream when she falls. So I have to think that this supernatural entity is somehow like making everyone not able to hear her scream. Like she's making a lot of noise, and then she's screaming when she's falling, and it's like no one's waking up. No one can hear anything that's going on in the halls. How is that even possible? Unless this entity is like creating a soundproof barrier between the hall and whatever. I don't know. Something's going on here to prevent sound from traveling. And I like the ball gun joke. She actually thinks this ball gun's gonna help. Shoots like a ball in a string, and she winds it back in. But there's a neat little scare with that, and the string's like going up, and then she like goes underneath her sheets, and we have this scare that's kind of like the one in Lights Out, the short, where like the footsteps are growing louder and louder as they're approaching. which would scare the shit out of me. And Linda somehow slept after that. Linda, who just heard all these loud footsteps approaching her, she saw Annabelle like on the bunk below her, like all this crazy shit's happening. And she just goes right back to bed. Like, I would never be able to sleep after that. I don't know how she fell asleep. We get a moment that was pretty much lifted from The Conjuring, and it's when Annabelle, the little girl, not the doll, pukes like this black fluid, like into Janice's mouth, and that's like her transferring like the evil into her, and that's exactly what they did at the end of The Conjuring. Well, not at the very end, but towards the end when the mom got possessed. Then we get the CGI fingers snapping scene. It's kind of brutal, like the sound design, but the CG kind of took me out of it. Like his fingers snapping off of the cross, and you see Janice like transform into the tall demon. More noticeable CG was when we see what's underneath that like Phantom of the Opera mask, and we see her eye missing, and the skin all around her eye socket is like black, and it's like her face is rotting, and she just looks really weird. Like it looks CG, it didn't look good. And we find half Mullins pinned to the wall with crucifixes stabbed into her arms, and she's been cut in half somehow, or ripped in half. And then we get the whole scarecrow scene, which was pretty cool. I thought the scarecrow looked pretty terrifying, and they lock Janice and the doll in the holy room with the wallpaper that's all made of like pages from the Bible, and there's like an earthquake, and then Janice is missing, and we find out that she ran off to some orphanage and changed her name. No one ever found Janice after this day, and she changed her name to Annabelle, and then she gets adopted by the two neighbors in the first Annabelle movie who get killed. And so yeah, they adopted Janice, who was possessed and was normal, I guess, for 12 years, and then suddenly became evil again. So it seems like there's like a 12-year curse here, because in the beginning of the movie it would flash forward 12 years, and then at the end of the movie it flashes forward 12 years again. So it's like every 12 years the doll is doing evil stuff. Like it's only every 12 years. But I like how it tied into part one, and they even like either showed the same footage from part one, or they like reshot it. Like it's the same actors, the neighbors, and you got the malignant actress like in this again. Like I think they probably just reused footage from Annabelle, but I thought it tied in beautifully into the first one. So cool ending. Just don't understand like why she was normal for like 12 years and then suddenly snapped. But whatever. What are your thoughts on this movie? Is it your favorite of the trilogy? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.